Hello, everybody, and welcome to Chem201 lecture. My name is Joe Toto, and I will be your guide for this arduous journey through the second semester of General Chem. To access your content for the class, you'll need to go to the Canvas website where you'll find your course content. You should see some sort of an icon like this, has a pH versus volume of NaOH titration plot on it. And you want to just click that. In here, you're going to see all the goodies that you need for the class. And it's pretty straightforward that the home page has almost everything on it that you need. So it's right there on the first page. The first thing you should look at is this welcome video, which I'm making right now, and I'll post it in this section. And you should look at the syllabus and schedule, and it's all in one package here for you. So you can see that our class starts February 1st. Our first Zoom meeting, though, isn't until Tuesday the 2nd. And Wednesday the 3rd. So we'll be meeting during that period. It's kind of like an office hour, anything goes. We're going to discuss whatever's on your mind, questions pertaining to the lecture or the lab, and any of the material that we're going to go over. We'll talk about it there, and then we'll decide whether it's worth posting or not. So you should read through this syllabus, some of your responsibilities, what you want to try to do to get the most out of the class, behavior, and so forth. And an introduction, and from my view, some of the things that you should be concerned about, and some of the things you should try to remember from Chem 200. Because we're going to use Chem 200, of course, as building blocks into 201. And the topics that we're going to discuss in 201 are probably something that you've never really thought about, like kinetics, in-depth equilibrium, acid-base equilibrium, but not just the acid-base reactions, but how much is left of components and how that affects its pHs and how to make buffers, and what criterion you should be looking at when deciding whether there's going to be a precipitate or not, and so forth. So a lot of the things sound familiar, but are going to be completely new to you. You're going to need a general chemistry text. The one that we've chosen here is the 10th edition of Zumdahl, but a lot of first-year college chemistry texts are pretty good. They have basically the same stuff, but here you're going to have the information chapter by chapter. Now, the 10th edition is their latest. That's not saying that you can't get away with an earlier edition. Some words on how to access the content are in here. The breakdown of your exams and your grade. Exam 1 is going to include these first two chapters, kinetics and equilibrium. Exam 2, and so forth. The final is going to be cumulative. And then the breakdown of your final grade, 70% are from exams, 20% final, and 10% is the homework grade, which Canvas calls quizzes. So here is the schedule that we're going to try to stick to during this semester. That week of February 1st, you should be mostly concerned with kinetics, and also the next week, starting on the 8th, kinetics. And when we have our Zoom discussions on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, starting at 9:35, that's mainly the topic that we're going to be looking at. Not that you can't ask questions on anything else, including lab. That first chapter 12 in the Zumdahl textbook deals with kinetics, and your kinetics homework is going to be due on February 14th. February 21st, the equilibrium is going to be due. Now, these homework assignments are all due, I believe, on a Sunday night by 11:59 p.m. You're given from now until these dates to do it. The thing is, you only get 2 shots at getting the right answer, and the program is set up for your final grade to be that taken from the highest of the 2 for the homeworks. And these initial homeworks here are to prepare you for the exams. And there's some notes on exam 1 that's going to cover those first 2 chapters, kinetics and equilibrium. And we'll have ample time during that discussion period to go over any of the homework problems, any textbook problems, or any problems with concepts that you have, and so forth. And that's our schedule. You probably should print that out and maybe hang it on your wall. All right, so back to the home page. We've gone through the syllabus and schedule. Here's how you get access to my Zoom room. You can come in here. Meetings are on Tuesdays and Wednesdays starting at 9:35 for approximately an hour, maybe a little longer if we go over. This is the passcode to get into the meeting. This is where you click to access that meeting room. Now, below this here, I will present any recorded material from those meetings, plus any material that I have pertaining to these topics that we'll address during the semester. All right, so again, back to home. So we went through the syllabus, the Zoom room, and now kinetics, the first chapter. Here are the PowerPoint plates that we will use in discussing those topics. And if I post any notes or discussions, it'll be from those PowerPoint plates that are kind of a springboard off into the concepts to get you thinking about it and help you with your homework and succeed on your exams. Right here is your homework, and it tells you the due date for that homework, which coincides with the schedule. That's the first chapter. The next chapter is equilibrium and so forth, and they all have an associated homework with them and notes. All right, now you can do the homework from there. You can go to the assignments part, and that'll have the homework in this assignments part as well. Discussions. Now, say you have a question that you want to pose that you think is going to be of interest to other students in the class. I try to divvy up those discussion boards according to topics. So exam 1, 2, and 3 topics. If you have any questions in there, you can get in and click into that section and post your question. And then I could reply, or possibly someone else can also contribute. Grades, you can look at people, and I think the rest you're pretty familiar with. So that is pretty much our introduction. I'm looking forward to answering any of your questions at the Zoom meeting on Tuesday and Wednesdays. Thank you for signing up for this class, and I hope that you obtain as much information from the second semester general chemistry class, which will allow you to be well prepared for your future. Thanks again.